Alright, welcome back guys. Hope you enjoyed the last video. I'm glad to be back into the grind. Already missed the Monday due date for this podcast, but that's alright. May do a late update. It may come out Wednesday or even later. Who knows? Anyways, today we're going to be talking about my favorite quotes, what it means to me. Some of the quotes that I've made have been from me, and probably 1% to 2% of them have been quotes that you've heard a ton of times. The old grandpa type quotes, and if you genuinely apply it, it will stick and you will learn from it. Alex Hormozi says, if you don't change your course of action after listening or reading a book, then you didn't learn anything. So if you read an entire book, you think you learned everything, you kept the knowledge in your head, but you simply did not change your day-to-day tasks or change the way you make decisions based on the new knowledge that you have, then you didn't learn anything. So keep that in mind as you're doing and as you're listening to this. Also keep in mind these quotes are really open and really vague. It can be as deep as you would like them to be. So you may just think, oh, that's really, really simple, just like this first one. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Again, it can be as deep as you would like. If you do nothing all day, then nothing changes because you didn't change anything. But if you change something, you worked out 2 hours every single day, eventually you'd be very strong. If you worked on a business every single day, kind of like the last podcast, is the compound effect. So if you change nothing, then nothing changes. So that can get deep. And then this next quote, the entire kind of brand of empire is this: ambition, discipline, and patience is the secret to be successful. Now, obviously, depending on your personality, there's different terms. But for me, I have to be ambitious. I have to have really big goals. And not like, okay, I want to make $1,000 in a year. Like giant goals that even your parents would laugh at you for. Okay? So I have a lot of those type of goals. You can ask people I'm close to. Discipline. Doing that thing every single day so that you can build up to that really big goal and that ambition. So you're crazy enough to have the idea, which that's big, and that gets lost in human translation. As kids, they have really crazy goals and ambitions, and then by the time they're adults, they're really boring, really mellow, and they would laugh anytime you say, well, why don't you just create a business? And they're like, I can't do that. But as a kid, you think you could literally pick up the world, and you can. If you have the ambitions, just keep trying over and over and never lose that inner child. All right, and then patience. You have to wait for it to compound. So again, you have to have the goal, and then you have to have the discipline to work on it every single day so that you could build up to the goal. And then you have to be patient. After a year, you don't just say, all right, well, I tried that, and you give up. If it's something even close to meaningful, then you'll be totally fine. Okay, and if it's something that will genuinely help a market, then you'll be totally fine. Keep waiting it out. Be patient. I am who I am because I've done what I've done. That goes for anything. I'm Marshall McGee because I've done what I've done. I've proven to myself that even in hardship, even with a month where I've had to spend thousands of dollars worth of expenses, I'm able to bounce back from it. I am me because of my experiences. A war veteran is him or her because of their experiences. So keep that in mind. That all of these can get as deep as you'd like. So write them down and actually genuinely think about what they mean. All right, this is not just a typical podcast. Genuinely think about what it means. So I've heard this next quote quite a few times, but the person I've heard it from the most is probably Dallas McGee. You have to pay to play. With me, if I want to hit my goals in business, I have to spend $1,600 every month on advertising and advertisement management. So you have to pay to play. And this goes for, I would say, mostly men based off of my experience. A lot of women do this as well, but I thrive for comfort, but I thrive in discomfort. Everyone knows that if you push yourself out of your comfort zone that you grow. That's whenever you learn the most. Do we do that a lot? No. Sometimes we're forced out of our comfort zone and we know we learn from it, right? So we're thriving to be comfortable. We want to be happy. But in reality, we're the most happy after we make it out of a drought, right? So if you go through a really hard thing, you'll be more happy whenever you make it out of that hard thing than you would have been if you just had a really easy, basic, boring life, right? So thrive for comfort, but in reality, you thrive in discomfort. And that's from me. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. This is another one that people say a lot, right? So they can say, oh, I'm busy. Well, what were you busy doing? Well, I was doing this and this, but does that genuinely make you more money or genuinely grow you as a person? No. And sometimes it's okay to do things that just keep you busy, because if you're addicted to your phone and you're addicted to something, then who cares what it is, whether it's woodworking, mowing the lawn, or anything like that. For you in your scenario, it's better that you just stay busy. But after you beat that game and you're in business for 3 or 4 years, you don't just say, well, I'm busy, because that's something that people like to brag about. Don't say, well, I'm busy. Say, I'm being productive. I'm doing something that genuinely tomorrow I will see, even if it's a small amount, I will see growth in the business, even if it's in my head. Sometimes I do things for the business that may not physically make the business better, but in my head, it will make the business more complete. It will just have to be later on that I start to see results from the action I did prior. Okay. Hard times create strong people. Strong people create easy times. Easy times create weak people. So the real saying is, hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men. But in today's age, women have it just as hard as men. So, and they always have, but definitely now, because you guys have to work, women have it hard too. So yeah, it is what it is. I mean, whenever you have someone rich in your family, like really, really rich, like a king or a really big business owner, then you have easy times. And whenever you're grown up in easy times, like really easy, everything's done for you. You have a chauffeur. You never have to work for $1 in your day. Like for me, my parents take care of me, my family take care of me, but I still have to work for the money that I have. Right? If I didn't have to work for the money I had at all, then I would begin to become a weak man, because I don't think I would have the same character traits. I would have completely different beliefs, because my beliefs would be set off my experiences. And my experience would be, well, the world is really easy. I don't know why everyone else isn't successful. And even if that sounds really vague and you're like, how would someone start to think that way? They just do. After enough time of getting stuff handed to them, they just start to think that way. For me, I've grown up in a middle-class family, and to some people I'd have an easy life, to some people I have a hard life. Who cares where I'm at? I knew I had to make it just a little bit harder and give myself a challenge, so I created a business. I also wanted financial freedom, and I'm on the road to that. So just remember that whenever you're going through hard times, it makes you stronger. And then whenever you're going through easy times, it makes you weaker. That's really what that saying is. And it's really hard to balance that. And who cares if you do? If you want to be the best, be the best. That is as simple as that quote is. But to break it down easier, if you want to be the best, be just like the best. If there was a company identical to Apple, Samsung's pretty close, but it's not close. Okay, but if you had a company identical to Apple, you just did a couple small things like made the phones a little bit cheaper, that would probably be the more successful business. So, if you want to be the best in whatever you're in, a sport, a business, a market, whatever it is, just simply develop the character traits and act like the best. And eventually it will, reach up to you, and it will catch up to you per se. And so if you've been working at something long enough, eventually you will become the best if you're more consistent than the best. So if you want to be the best, be like the best. All right. If I trained as hard as Messi or Ronaldo or Patrick Mahomes, and I trained exactly like them every single day in the exact same area with the same coaches, I would probably be just like them. So if you want to be the best, be like the best. So here's where it starts to, this was my quotes whenever I first started the business. That's whenever things are more hard. It's harder on you because people don't really care. They're like, oh, good job. They give you a pat on the back. But then after like the initial hype of starting a business, people just are like, oh, yeah. And they just kind of stop talking about it. And that's usually whenever people lose motivation. It's fun to say, I've created a business. And then you'll get your initial customers through family and stuff like that. But then after that hype dies down and you genuinely have to find actual clients, that's whenever people lose motivation and they're done. So here's where these type of quotes came from whenever I was going through those hard times. If you're tired, then work harder. It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't have to. At the end of the day, if you are exhausted, you are tired, you're put up with your life, you're done with your life, you're tired of your 9 to 5, you're tired of all these things, okay? If you worked every day for 20 years, then you would have something, okay? And that something would allow you to be free from whatever it is. And at that moment is when you can physically sleep, whenever you can watch Netflix. The thing people confuse is it's not reverse. It's not, okay, I'm going to go party and do this whenever I'm young, and then I'll focus on financial stuff whenever I'm an adult. I'm doing adulting. In reality, it should be the teenagers worrying about adulting and the adults resting because they've already done the crap. So if you're tired, then just work harder because eventually you can rest, even if it's in the next life. The best way to cure laziness is to work. This is 100% true. And this is something that I've adapted. Over the winter, I was still working on my business, but I watched a lot of Harry Potter, watched a lot of Netflix, relaxed. It was my off season. And I felt really lazy. Time February came around, I was like, all right, I got to get back to work. It took a long time to build that motivation back up. But now that I'm going, it's a lot funner working than being lazy. I get an anxiety rush if I'm being lazy. I feel much better about myself if I'm working, and you know that to be true. So, the best way to cure laziness is to work. Just trust me. If you're on the couch and you're lazy, get up, go play basketball, go on a walk, go text some people, call someone, do something semi-productive. Even if it doesn't affect your life in 40 years, but it affects your exact moment, then that's a good start. If you want to be motivated, motivate the people around you. This is very important. You build a community. Me and my brothers are close. Me and my cousins are close. My family and I are close. It's because over the years I built a community with them and some trust. So if you want to be motivated, motivate the people around you. It's a lot more fun whenever you're talking with someone that has seen the journey, witnessed what you've done, and then you start talking about goals. You're like, dude, what if I did this? And they're kind of like your hype man. And it's more motivating if you do that. But you will not receive motivation if you don't motivate them. So it's important to create relationships with someone that you're close to that genuinely brings you value in your life. Okay, here's the controversial one. Don't let poor people tell you how to live life. This is something that stemmed from me whenever I had hatred for my school. Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of teachers that genuinely helped me and wanted the best for me. I would say 90% of the teachers, though, simply were there for the paycheck, which is fine. I get it. That's their work, whatever. But You cannot be teaching a business class if you've never had a business. You can show me all the statistical billboards and slideshows and all these marketing hacks and gimmicks that you went to college for, but until you own a business and you solve really small, stupid problems that you never thought would be, because you think business owners are over here at a desk being like, you go over there, you go over there. No, it's more like, okay, I have an advertisement, old people keep commenting on it, and it's screwing up my ad spend. That's the problems I have to solve. I have to word my advertisements in a way that only people that are interested in my product get my product. Okay? So until you fully commit into being a business owner, it's really difficult to teach. You can share your opinion and I'll listen. I love hearing people's opinions, but until you've genuinely taught unless you've done the thing that you're teaching, it doesn't really correlate that well. And it's the same for me. It's like, yeah, I'm not a successful business owner, but I talk about business. And I simply just share my experiences and life lessons. And there are things that I think will be able to help people at a lower level, maybe even medium. I went to Kickapoo and I took a marketing class. And I can tell you now that I know way more than my teacher does at marketing. And I can prove it too. Next, if you want to change your life, change your hour. This is something that I heard from one of the general authorities from my church. I really like my church. It's a good community. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But forget who it was that said it. They said if you want to change your life, change your year. If you want to change the results of your year, change what you do in your month. If you want to change what your month looks like, change what you do every week. Same thing goes for days, hours, minutes, seconds. If I want to have a really good year, that means every little second has to be good. Now, obviously, you're going to have bad ones, but if you work towards having good seconds, that will compound and you'll have more good seconds than bad because you're going to be working on it every day. So if you want to have a good year, have a good month. And that just goes after it doesn't have to be like business-wise, because business has to do with market sways. Real life, though, it's like happiness or productiveness, stuff like that. So if you worked on something every day, after a year, you'll be very happy with your results. So if you want to change, if you think your life sucks, change your year. Same thing, just keep breaking it down lower and lower. If your year last year sucked, and that just means every single day you got to work harder at it. And after 365 days of working harder at it, you're going to realize, oh, I actually had a decent year. It was decent. So that's a good place to start. All right. Success will come, but the work will come first. That's huge. All right. I worked for 2 years before even making $1,000 in one day. So there's a lot of work that has to be done before you're successful, and I'm still not there, in my opinion. This is the biggest one, and I have to repeat this to myself probably once a month. When it rains, it pours, whether it's good or bad, okay? We've heard the whether it rains or pour thing a million times, but what people don't know is whether it's good or bad. Everybody, that I would say the average person has a couple weeks out of the year that are really good. Okay? Everything seems to be going right for them. And if you're a logical person, you look back and you're like, all right, what's about to happen? I need to start preparing. This is way too good to be true, right? Say you have a lot of jobs coming in, you're getting a lot of sales, you're making friends with new people, you're in a good mood, good attitude. That's whenever it rains good. And then you'll have what I had the last 2 weeks, which is terrible expenses popping up and just problems in my business that arose and caused me to spend $3,500 in 2 weeks, which I was not prepared for, nor do I want to go through that again, but it's probably going to happen sometime in my life. And so I have to start preparing for it. But whether it rains or pours, or when it rains, it does pour. whether it's good or bad. You can have normal days where it's just nothing's happening. But when it does rain, it's going to pour. Okay? Whether you're having a really good week, a lot of fun things happening, popping off, or the opposite. Crap. All right. Will you ever be perfect? No. There are too many imperfect people that interfere with your perfectness. And this is not a mindset where it's like, gimme, gimme, gimme. Oh, I'm blaming my failures off onto other people. But in some scenarios, no matter how hard I work, inflation is still rising. We still have a terrible government, right? So, I cannot be perfect because the market is not perfect. I can have a decent year, but no matter what, it's not going to be a PR year by any means, because this is not a PR year. The market is not good right now. The news is scaring people into hiding. And the crazy thing is people have been hiding their entire lives. Kings used to scare the peasants by saying, oh, if you do this, there's going to be an army that comes and invades your entire thing. And if you don't pay taxes, all this army is going to come in and slaughter your entire family. And maybe it did happen, but maybe it doesn't. So do not slow down your day because of what someone says on the news. It does suck when, prices are rising, but that doesn't just mean, all right, I'm throwing in the towel. Because if we end up not getting in a nuclear war or anything bad like that, then you ended up being dead wrong. If you're a mindset where it's like, well, I'm not going to try and create a business because this is a terrible time to create a business. Well, it's always a terrible time to create a business. The best time to create a business was 10 years ago. Because at this point, you'd have 10 years of compounding effect, 10 years of experience, 10 years of customers, 10 years of product building. So the best time to create a business was yesterday. And it's always going to be like that. Obviously, during the year, there's going to be certain days that statistically it's worse to start a business. But since you have no clue what's going on because you're so fresh to business, it doesn't matter when those days are. It doesn't matter if the market's high. You still need to buy real estate. Okay? Because in 10 years, it will be a lot higher than it is today. I can promise you that. So do not hide. It obviously sucks that our country is being ran by people that think they're smart, but ruin markets. And that's fine. But don't let them scare you into hibernation, right? Continue to fight for your right. Every day that goes on, you forget a memory you once pondered upon. But every day that goes on, a new one comes along. A lot of people go through the motions, right? You go through the motions because every day is somewhat of a normal day. Maybe Fridays are better for you. Maybe Mondays are worse for you. But the important thing is, this year ago today, unless it was an important day a year ago, you probably don't remember what you did a year ago. There's apps for that, like Snapchat, and you can look. Maybe you have no memories saved. Okay? So you did something 1 year ago for the 13 hours or so you were awake. Okay? Yet nothing was important enough that you even remembered it. So it's important to know that you should cherish every memory and genuinely think that. If you're young right now, it's important to know that someday you will be old, and whether you think it or not, you will think back and be like, dang, I kind of missed that. Maybe you missed that 2016 to 2018 era, which cough, cough, that was whenever Trump was in office. So I wonder why everything was going good back then. I'm not trying to get into political stuff. I'm a businessman. He made businesses better. Okay. Besides that, just remember, it's important to remember that every memory you have, you're thinking of it right now, and a year from now, you may not remember it. You may not remember this podcast, which means you're wasting your time. Fun thing to think about. The next one is life is like ice skating. Some people get it, some people don't. But keep practicing and teach the new skaters how you've learned. I'm terrible at ice skating, and I would assume, because people don't start out their life ice skating, I would assume at one point in time you sucked at ice skating, or you still suck at ice skating. It's kind of like life. Everyone starts out as a baby. They have help along the way. Some people have more help than others. And eventually you get to a point where people are like, how in the world did he get there? Well, who knows? At one point he was a baby. But we know at one point he sucked at life. At one point he couldn't even walk. Okay? So he sucked at life at one point. He or she. So it's important to relate life like ice skating, which it's okay if you suck at first. Eventually you'll learn. And once you do learn tips and tricks of life that help your day-to-day operations flow smoother, to tell people about it and be like, look, this is what worked for me. Try it for you. If it works, cool. If not, awesome. The only way to live in this world is to have confidence. It's 100% true. If you search up the definition of confidence, it'll kind of answer whatever questions you have about that topic. But it's important to be confident in yourself. Not confident in the fact that you walk into a room like Conor McGregor and you're like, all right, I run this show. No, that's arrogance. Okay, but confidence is like, okay, I'm good at power washing. I know that unless you're another power washing company, you're not going to be as good as I am at power washing. And even if that's a small thing and an odd thing, it's not a sexy business, it's still a business that I happen to be very good at. And I'm confident at that. So it's important to build confidence in yourself. If you're not confident in anything you do, you better start learning now. I asked someone this last week. They were also talking about this topic. I said, if you knew every single thing in the world, do you think you'd be the richest person in the world? He said, yeah. I would assume I'm the richest person in the world if I knew everything. That means I would know more than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all those guys. Okay, well then get to learning. Okay? Whatever problem you have, unless it's a mental issue, most of it can be solved by money. Like I said, unless it's a mental issue. Okay? So, if my goal was to make as much money as possible, I better get to learning right now. I may not be learning the right thing, but if I genuinely had every ounce of knowledge in this entire existence, I would easily be the richest person in the world. Because I would know how everything works. I could hack everything. I could do everything in my favor. So it is important to know, if you don't know everything in the world, which you don't, all that simply means is you better start learning. Okay? So then the quotes keep going on, but I think you guys get the gist of what this is even about. Okay? The main focus on this is these are all just little tips and tricks. No one's perfect. Okay? We all start out as a baby. And it's important to know that if you are lacking something, just get to learning. Okay? If you're listening to podcasts or if you're doing stuff that genuinely impacts your business, then good for you. But if you come to me and say, hey, how do I make money? First thing I would say is get to learning. That's all I can relate to, because I can't even talk about all the knowledge that I've had in the last 2 years of learning how to pressure wash until you've done a little bit. After you've done it for 3 or 4 years, then we can have a conversation that's high enough up that both of us can communicate on this level that we're like, you get it now. You just get it. But unless you haven't power washed, you're like, okay, you buy a power washer from Lowe's, and then you spray water onto concrete, and that water blasts the dirt off of the concrete. I would say, yeah, that is probably 10% of what I do. The rest of it is mixing chemicals, buying expensive pumps that eject through 200 feet of hose, and you have to apply different chemicals for every single surface you touch, different mixes of the ratings, and all the different services you offer, how to do it in a safe way, how to do it without destroying the thing. If you realize how much things are on house, like wood, paint, bricks, all those things can be damaged by a pressure washer. So what do? Not use a pressure washer on houses. I use a mixture of chemicals that are safe for that application, and I apply it in the way that makes the surface look brand new. And then you have to learn fittings and science and math to get all these little pieces and parts to link together so that whenever you pull up to a job, you have a smooth operation between hose reels and equipment, adapters, stuff like that. You have to learn the science behind flow versus pressure. And then you start to think, okay, maybe I don't know a lot about his business. And you would be correct because it is difficult. That's why we're able to charge what we do charge. So until you've got to learning and until you have put in 2 years worth of, courses and actually washing houses, I've washed over 100 houses before. Until then, you start to realize, okay, I understand what he's saying about that one thing. I get what he's saying. So if you're someone that doesn't know anything about business, you don't know what a CRM is, a POS system is, or anything like that, the really basic stuff, the stuff you have to know to just even get started, LLC, corporations, taxes, then obviously you would not be able to have a conversation with someone that's really high up in business. So that person would tell you, get to learning. He would teach you a little bit. And then someone else would teach you a little bit. And then after enough years, you have all this knowledge and experience that now you can have a conversation with that person that was really high up in business. But you can't have a conversation with him until you even get close to understanding what it is. So if you haven't even started, the best thing to do is just simply start. You got plenty of time. Even if you're 30, you have plenty of time, okay? To start learning. Start developing skills that soon you can monetize. Start developing skills that help you have an easier lifestyle. Okay, so this podcast didn't have a certain topic. It just went over quotes, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something. And again, you only learned if you apply what I said and you change a little bit of the action that you do, okay? So unless you change the action that you do every single day, day-to-day operations, unless you think of these quotes over and over in your head, then this entire podcast was a waste of time, which is a cool thing to think about. Because in 1 year, since you've seen this exact moment, you probably will not remember it. But if you did, good job. And again, this is all stuff that I've figured out in my time of being on this world versus other times. My superpower is I take in knowledge, I learn it, and I apply it. I know pretty much everything about Alex Hormozi. I know pretty much everything about Grant Cardone. All those guys that I look up to, I just study and listen to all of their podcasts. I know every single thing that he's going to say before he says it. And it's because I sit back and I listen and I adapt to what they say. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope that you apply something from today. I forgot to wear the hat, but new merchandise is coming. Chances are I'm probably just going to give it to you for free, but if I actually start giving away enough that I need to start selling them, then I will make a little Shopify thing and we can start selling them. But I'm just going to focus on giving them away. Sharing the message. Ambition, discipline, and patience. See you guys next week.